Okay, I'll start. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Can you hear me at the back? It's good? All right, thank you. So I'm Kalsum. I'm a mother to three children. Two of them are in the audience today. So I left the workforce about 14 years ago, but I would still like to believe that I'm like doing my part for society. And one of it is as a role is in my role as the editor of Homeschool Singapore, which is a website that advocates alternative education. And today I'm here as a moderator to this forum on what children's right in education look like in Singapore. Okay. So I'm pleased to welcome our speakers. The first one on my left is Pooja Bhandari. Okay, Pooja had been a diplomat. Okay, however, she has served, but she's also served in the social service sectors, and she's especially passionate about representing the needs, the interests, the voices um, uh, the interests of the people whose voices need to be heard. Okay, so in 2023, she founded EveryChild.SG, a group that wants to transform education and champion childhood. So you can go to their website EveryChild.sg to look at the good works that she has done, and I think there's a video that she's going to show everyone later. Okay, and then on my right is Shiyun. Shiyun's background is in the arts. Her vision is for communities to be kinder to children. And um, okay, so she took to action and launched this very cool club called the Takut Kids Club. Right, it's a very catchy name, and it's a program that many of us believe can be a model for providing safe hangouts for children in public rental estates. And I think, as you can see from her video later, there's a lot that we can learn from that also. Okay, and the third speaker is the only gentleman on the panel, and he's Narasimman Tivasihamani. We know him as Narash. Narash was in the Singapore Navy. Okay, he sailed the ocean blue, and now he's a psychotherapist. Okay, how he gets there, maybe you can ask him. And I know from my engagement with many youth is that a lot of you are interested in psychology, right? So yeah, those who are interested in the youth who are interested in psychology here might want to put him aside for lunch, bring him a plate or a drink, and ask him how he got into this sector. Okay, but for this session, Narash will share in his capacity as a co-founder and executive director of Impart, which is an organization focusing on youth education and mental health. And his co-founder, Joshua Tay, and he was shortlisted as a Straits Times Singaporean of the Year finalist last year. Isn't it amazing? Right? Okay, so have you not lined up an impressive panel to speak to all of you today? Okay, now having introduced the speakers, I turn to the audience. Okay, all of you, and the panelists here would also like to know about you, right? So can you all stand up one by one and tell me your names and why you're here? I'm kidding, right? So we're going to harness technology, okay? So use the QR code here and to follow the link, right? Don't, I think you can show the next page, yeah. Okay. So this is a word cloud exercise, right? What does children rights mean to you in one word or phrase? Okay, I know Dawn just now made you read all the 54 or 42 points, but what does it mean to you personally? Okay, so type in one word or phrase, and if you see like an idea that is similar to yours, type in the same thing so that the word will become bigger in the cloud. Okay, yeah, that's how word cloud works. Can you show the results? Yeah. Oh, they're still typing. Okay, okay. Oh, okay. All right. Okay. So while you're doing this, okay, I will ask. I think yeah, we'll move on to the videos. So we start with Pooja. Over to you.
Thanks, Kalsum. So this video is about EveryChild.SG, which is the organization I founded. We started off advocating for reform in the primary school system, but now we've sort of expanded our focus and we're just advocating for children's well-being to be a national priority. And just a bit of a personal intro. So my background is mostly in the civil service. So I was in MSF for 6 years, AWA for 6 years, and now I'm mostly working on Every Child full time.
Thank you, Pooja. Before we move on to the next video, can you just show whether there's any result for the word cloud? That's nice. Okay. So, are you allowed to give any more than one entry? Yeah. If you do, then if for anything that you like feel any point that resonates with you, you can just like type in again so that you can see which are the points that are more important to you. Yeah. Let's give 10 seconds for that, and then Shiyun, you can start your introduction.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Shiyun. I tend to spend a lot of time in the neighborhood, so I use street lingo. I founded a club called Takut Kids Club. Basically, I think we're just trying to form a good gang in the neighborhood for the kids. Yeah, so how does that really look like? I'll just show you the video first, then we can talk more about it later.
So that's a video by Shiyun. So if you can see from these two videos, Pooja's work focuses on children's rights, okay, and particularly on educational policies, right? And for the children here, what are policies? Okay, so policies are decisions that influence the big picture of how we do things. Okay, policies are usually shaped by the government. Okay, and based on these policies, governments they make laws, they make rules. Okay, they create systems, right? And then people like you and I, we react to these policies. Okay, and we behave accordingly. And however we behave, whatever we do becomes our society, the society's practice. So, for example, a very common practice in the way we respond to the educational policies in Singapore is that the children go for a lot of tuition classes, for example. Okay, so policies shape social behavior. Okay, um, so that is why the correct policies must be made, right? And because it affects the way in which we live our lives. Okay. For Shiyun's work, right, it's very impressive, isn't it? I couldn't help smiling while watching at the video, right? But you may ask, you may wonder, where is the education in all of this? Anybody? Right? Because you see children playing in the backgrounds, cooking in the playgrounds, cooking in the kitchen. Where is the education in all of this? Mhm. Yes, thank you very much. Okay, so, sorry, I cannot hear you. It's where you want to be, all right? Yeah, so education is actually a big umbrella of many things, right? And because learning takes place even outside of school, right? And sometimes for children, you've heard it just from one of them herself, like sometimes this is where they want to be, okay, not in school, right? Um, sorry? Oh, maybe you would like our school. All right. Okay. So what Shiyun does is to provide social support to these children who and the activities that they do teach children not only important skills but also to realize that their voices matter. Okay. So hashtag that's children's rights for you, right? So then I let Naresh tell us more about his work. Naresh.
Hi, I'm Naresh. I work at Impart, and we work with young people who are facing adversities through the means of actually helping them with education because some of them have already dropped out of school. We also help them with their mental health needs, not really doing counseling, but what we do is that we get them there because many people are not going to seek social workers or counselors for support because there's a lot of stigma. And then last is also we give them community building activities. So we do things like boxing, calisthenics, sepak takraw, soccer, sports like that. We also do dance, learning guitar, so arts, a bit of that. And I think the whole idea here is to see how we can give other kind of opportunities to young people.
I spoke to Naresh earlier, a few days ago, and I learned from him this phrase that he uses to describe the community he serves. Okay, and the phrase is youth facing adversity, right? Youth facing adversity. And I really like the phrase because I think it takes away the negative connotations that often comes with the other standard terms of reference that we have towards these communities. And so he's doing very important work by addressing the student and youth needs from the points of view that are often not addressed. Okay, and I love how his group wants to incorporate the youth voices in deciding, what's good for them. Okay, so because when curriculum or programs are usually designed for students and youth, for children, they are often done with the perception that children are empty vessels to be filled. Okay, and so Impart is different. I feel because it looks they look at how they look at the children and ask where do we meet them where they are, right? And that is what good education is all about. Okay, so speaking about great education, Dawn, can you bring back the yes, right, this slide? Okay, so I bring back this screen, the proposition that is put forth in this forum. Okay, and the focus areas of this of our sessions today. Okay, so our proposition is that in a society that fulfills children's rights in education, all children must have, number one, access to great education. Two, access to an emotionally sound home. Three, the learning needs considered in community activities. Four, access to service providers who implement a child protection policy. Five, their feedback be part of education policies. And six, opportunities to create their education at global platforms. Okay, and it is in the spirit of points 5 and 6 that we have also involved children in today's forum. Okay, so look around, okay, and give our children a round of applause for being here. Okay, okay. To facilitate our Q&A session, okay, I would like to refer you back to this QR code and follow the link to submit your questions for the panelists. Okay, and as you ask your questions, please indicate the topics. Okay, for example, if you are asking about children having access to great education, write topic 1 followed by the question, so it will help us in facilitating the Q&A sessions. Okay, and microphones will also be provided if you prefer to ask questions face to face. Okay. So while you're typing your questions, I think I will just start with a question for the panelists. And I think I start with Pooja. Is that okay? Yeah. So I think you and I talked about the notion of children's rights, right? And how this term is not commonplace in our society. Okay, and I think as Dawn's Kahoot session just now revealed that many of us have not even heard of this notion before. Okay, so how do we avoid viewing children's rights as something that is foreign, that is like as external? Okay, and how should we understand children's rights from a practical point of view?
Okay, that's a great question. So for every child, we actually consciously decided not to use the word children's rights, not because we don't support children's rights and advocate for it, but just to connect better with the average Singaporean who has probably not heard this term. So we actually start from adult outcomes that we want to see for our children, right? So things like holistic development, maximizing their learning potential, their social emotional development, spiritual development. And that is something, that's a way to get people to something that, we can all align on. Because I think we agree on what we want our children to be as adults. And then when we work backwards from there, we sort of end up coming to the same conclusions about how to support and nurture children, right? So it's actually just a language difference. It's essentially the same thing. I hope that eventually we'll be able to just have frank conversations about children's rights in Singapore. But for now, even things like women's rights is problematic. So this is probably a while away.
Are there any questions submitted on the system? Okay. All right. Okay, I'll continue first. Okay. We go through the questions based on the topics. Okay. So topic one, I would like to ask Narash. Okay. So Narash, I'm intrigued by your work because you tackle the heart of the issue of education, right? Because Pooja and I, we spoke about how like individuals with neurodiverse needs may lack access to opportunity to feel as accomplished as their peers. So like how sorry, yeah. So like how do you like look at tackle this issue of inclusion in the work that you do?
All right. I hope the last person in the room can hear me. So I think in the area of education, many young people have dropped out of school because they don't feel seen, heard, or felt. And I think that at the end of the day, when we try to reintroduce school back to them, it has to be in a different concept, right? I think that the student to teacher ratio is something that we work on quite strongly on, because I think it's not just the student and teacher ratio, it's also about the other people who can probably help, for example, volunteers or even peers who have gone through the journey a little bit ahead of them. And that composition is really important, and we got that in terms of working with young people in the education space. That's one. Uh, we also then realize that it's not just the education about the academics that they are looking at, but we are also helping them on how to study. For example, developing executive functioning. I think that's a very huge word, but it takes a lot to actually study. It takes a lot to sit down. Parents will agree with that. Uh, it is because they are a force of nature, right? They have a lot of energy in them. And when we tell them that they need to sit down and listen to a teacher, that takes a lot. And not every child can is able to do that, because their makeup is different too. So the question of inclusion is not just about looking at which child is difficult, but thinking about how do we ensure that all the children can be included in that space and learning can happen. Yeah.
Thank you very much. You have something to add? Yes, please.
I think Naresh put up a very important point about when we work with children, one of the very key aspects is the social emotional piece, which I think school, because of the environment, it is the built environment is harder to do that. So TTKC has been quite focused on that. But the other thing that we discover as a gap, and I was also speaking with a vice principal of a primary school yesterday to understand what is really the education gap. I mean, besides this piece, right? So she gave me a term, and I want to share with everybody because it just ring in my head since yesterday. She said something that is a gap for the children, especially for those who are lower income, under resourced, is factual fluency. Factual fluency means basically you have the facts. You know how to, for example, in terms of numeracy, you know how to add, you know how to times, you know how to divide. So you have children who are 10 years old and they don't have factual fluency, but in school they are already expected to do problem solving. So this is a lot of children at TTKC that we see. Yeah. So the key gap is actually that the children don't even have their foundation. So if you ask them to aga, right? And I was just thinking about, just for fun, it's a program called aga. We can aga, we can estimate because we have facts. But a lot of the kids actually, they don't even have that. But at 10 years old, they're already expected to solve problems. And these are abstract problems even. So it's just impossible for them to catch up. So that's one of the key gaps. Yeah.
Thank you, Shiyun. Any question about the first topic, access to great
Sorry,
education?
I may have also missed out something about inclusion. Well, one of the ways we include young people is through play. It's a practical way of including them. So it's not just about didactics. It's not just about talking to them about how to do math. But it's also about bringing in the element of play, being playful with the young people. I think that helps.
Thank you. So you have some questions. I think I'll pick up this. Okay, I think on topic one, they ask about why is a great education? How do we define it? And in what ways can the current system be greater? And then, okay, education is broad while examination is focused on testing short-term memory. Should compulsory exams be abolished? So, Pooja.
I can take some of that all together. So, I think just quoting from the rights of children, right? One thing we talk about is holistic development, and that is obviously not just academics, right? So it's also like physical, emotional, social, spiritual development. I think that is something we're a bit behind in Singapore because we focus too much on the academics, and that takes away time from our children developing the other aspects of their personality. And in Singapore, we like economic justifications for things. So there's an economic argument here as well that we're not spending enough time nurturing the 21st century skills our children need to compete. And some of the things I would like to see is actually to have this concept of holistic development inbuilt into our primary school curriculum. Um, it's done that way in most other developed countries. It's done that way in a lot of the good international schools in Singapore. So it's we don't have to reinvent the wheel there. There's a lot of plug and play other curriculums that we can just use. Another big thing is CCA. It's a key part of nurturing these other aspects of our children. And ideally, they should provide opportunity to all children who are interested. They should be flexible. You should be able to move in and out depending on your interests. There should be variety. Again, I think this is a bit of a missed opportunity in our schools. Recess and playtime, very key in developing all these things. The other bit maybe I can pick up on is the term fullest potential. I don't think we can do that until we actually put the resources in, right? So things like differentiated teaching, smaller class sizes. Children have different learning styles, different learning needs, different learning speeds. We have to cater to all that. We should. We're a developed country. We're rich enough, right? And then we have this big myth in Singapore, which I just like to tackle, which is that somehow you have to do well academically at 12 in order to do well academically at 18. Actually, there isn't a link there. You can take your time. We can let our kids be kids. And it actually sets them up on a stronger footing to do well later in life because they build real resilience, rather than destroy their mental health. They get that holistic development we've been talking about. And they get a solid foundation to figure out, these are my strengths. This is what I want to do with my life. Yeah.
Thank you, Pooja. Okay. I think we'll reverse the gaze to the homes now. So topic 2. Okay. Maybe for Naresh and Shiyun, you can comment like how do you access this issue in our society through the children that you serve? How whether what is the what does an emotionally sound home look like? Yeah. Emotionally sound home. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, we don't really do too much work at home with the parents, but one of the things that we believe is that the parents need to be involved in the education process. It is not an outsourcing kind of way of thinking about things that the teachers are responsible for educating your child. I think that parents primarily hold that responsibility to ensure that the child is educated in the right way. And I think that a parent just asking about homework, going through that and validating them, encouraging them towards doing better. I think that is part of being a emotionally sound home. Of course, I think parents can. We always say that parents can do more, right? But I think that it is a fast-paced generation. There's a lot of things that the parents have been expected to do. We call them the sandwich generation. There's a lot of stress on them already also. And some of them take care of children with special needs. Some of them don't even know that they're taking care of children with special needs. At the end of the day, I think caring for these caregivers will then result in an emotionally sound home also. A lot of times, I think we put too much emphasis on the parents. I think that at the end of the day, we need to see how can we have a whole community approach that we can care for parents and we can work with them to kind of strengthen them to be able to give that care to the young people. We always say that you can't pour from an empty cup. That applies to parents too. So a lot of times I feel like the parents are taking the brunt of the blame, and then after that it becomes too difficult for them, and then some of them do have externalization, so then they blame the school. I think it is a vicious cycle because there is too much emphasis on them. But I think the question should be, how do we take a step back, and as a community, as a society, how we can support one another better, right? It's the same thing as people with mental health care. We always say they need to do self-care, and the word self-care is very misleading for people with mental health care because they can't take care of themselves already. And then you tell them they need to self-care, and then when they don't do it, we say that, hey, go back to image. And so then that is the vicious cycle that we are sort of putting some of the parents in also, because self-care is not possible for some of them. It's a we care. It's a community approach that is more important, I feel.
Yeah, I think that's a very strong point that Naresh made towards the end. It's not just about putting the focus on parents. Okay, we often want to take the load off the children, and then we focus and say, but parents, you shouldn't be putting the stress on the children. But you see, parents are also responding to the policies, to the systems around us, right? Sorry. Yeah. So, and there's also a question here about how can we encourage parents to focus on crucial but less tangible education outcomes to gradually push for system change. Would you like to take that on?
Maybe the first question first about emotionally sound home. It's very hard to have an emotionally sound home. Sometimes I question myself whether I'm emotionally sound dealing with my child. I try my best. I think sometimes I fail. And especially when you're dealing when in the household, and thank you, Naresh, for introducing the term adversity. Facing intergenerational adversity, actually, you have a certain trauma in the family that's passed on. When something happens, you are triggered immediately, there's a trigger response. So it's actually really very hard work if you're going to look at every family work to make every family emotionally sound. But even as you're doing that, in times when they are unsound, where can the children go? Where can the adults go for support? Yeah, this is a very long-term work. So that's why I think we really need to open up the definition of home. So community can be a home. Community needs safe spaces. When I'm triggered by my child or I'm triggered by my parents, there is a place I can go to and vent. So we have to expand this definition of home. Yeah.
Thank you. And I think with that, we've also kind of addressed topic 3 on the community, right? About, how do we get learning needs to be considered in community. I think one of the points that they raised is to expand the definition of home. And there's this question about, how do we gradually push for like system change? Any inputs on that as a community? How is there a way for us? Should we even try to do it to push for system change?
Yeah. So I think that is an important point, right? I think in Singapore, which is a meritocracy nation, right, that believes strongly on that. I think we need to first try to broaden the range of what merits mean. I think just looking at academics is not, and I also know that the MOE is trying their best to broaden this understanding of merits by now trying to get JCs to do one lesser subject, and trying to get extracurricular activities to be a bit more on the focus, right? I think we are trying to get there. We can do more, right? And I think that is one of the things that we need to do. We need to also reduce the hierarchy between academic skills and non-academic skills. I think just as a society, there is a lot of emphasis on academic skills, I think everyone here in the room can agree with that. So when we do non-academic skills as a focus, people will ask, would that put bread and butter, right, on the table? When we look at soft skills, then what does that add to my child, right? That's the biggest question that we always get. When I have youth that I fall out from school, we do sepak takraw, right? The parent asks me, so Naresh, when is the boy going to school? The thing is that you also cannot bring him to school. I also cannot bring him to school. Let's work on something that the youth will want to work. And yesterday, he asked me whether he can come to my office and do some work. I'm like, oh my gosh, what can I give him, right? But so I told him, okay, you come, right? Because the part of the non-academic skill is showing up. The part, and then trying to reward that for him because he was recluse for very long. Now he's trying to step out. But I think it's in the range of just this practical example. I think that we need to look at the non-academic skills, right? And then the last part I think is interesting in the community is social mixing. That social mixing in itself is very powerful because it can teach young people a lot of things, right? So when we get university students with non-university students or youths that have never seen anyone from a university, it's very powerful, right? Really because it's a different academic track that they are not even exposed to, but there are dreams that each individual comes with, right? And I think that for the university students, it's great to mix with children and youths who are not in the university streams. Why? Because they come with a different set of dreams and hopes and vision for their own self, right? Which then the university kids come and tell me, wow, Naresh, I learned so much from this young person. I say, oh, tell me more, right? In the same way, the young person who hasn't thought about going to university come and tell me, Mr. Naresh, why you never tell me about veterinarian course? I can go and do this. So I also don't know what you wanted, right? But it's the social mixing that helps learning happen. And I think that it's very powerful and that's something that we can focus on in the community.
I keep forgetting to turn on the mic. Okay. The fourth. Oh, yeah, you like.
I wanted to share. Naresh is talking a lot about the social peer learning. I like to touch on reflective learning. It's sometimes it's very scary when you always think about learning means activities. We are very good at doing a lot of things. Let's add one more program. Let's do more activity. Actually, maybe we need to do less because a lot of learning, especially with the kids these days, they have a lot of opinion. Yeah, their world is always about Donald Trump. Also, you can hear it in the audience. My son is like that also. Actually, is do less. Spend more time to talk with them. Have more reflective sessions. We did talk about children's voices. If you are always doing activities, actually you can't hear their voice. Yeah. Have those sessions where you really reflect and feedback, talk. Yeah, hang out.
That's a very good point. Okay. I think I'll skip the next topic about child protection policy because I want to do. I want to be more intentional about bringing in the children's voices in this conversation. Right? Can we open up the QR code again? Okay. This question is for the children only to answer. Okay. Yes. Okay. So are you in the Slido app? Okay. So my question for the children is, what's just one thing, adults need to unlearn to respect children's feedback in education? Because we're talking about children's voices, right? Yeah. What's one thing adults need to unlearn to respect children's feedback in education? Okay. Only kids answer because I want to hear what the kids have to say about it. Sorry? You is not? Oh, oh yeah. I think you got to play.
But a lot of the kids, I think, went out to play already.
Yeah, that's a feedback. This is too long. Yeah. Oh yeah. So
I only see 3, 4 kids.
yeah.
But one of the kid cannot answer this question also.
Okay. If you see something about we need to adults needing to unlearn about not dragging their children to the forum when they don't want to, I know who those kids are. They're probably my children. Okay. Anything? Okay, the kids are coming in. Okay. Anybody? Oh, listen to them.
All right.
Okay, you've got to
We have
learn
our
to
first
listen.
candidate.
Okay, we have this first response by the kids. How about you? What do adults need to unlearn?
Um, um,
Maybe you
no
want to-
child abuse.
What's your name?
Ali.
Ali. Okay, so Ali says no child abuse. So what are the abuse?
Punching. Punching. No, hurting them physically and mentally.
What's mental abuse?
It's like you suck. You're worth nothing. Get good. No. That's mentally. And physically is punching, kicking, drop kicking someone in the face. Yes.
Anything? Anything else? Yep.
Well, the the mentally ones I've experienced online. And the physically one my friends tell me because they have experience.
Thank you, Ali. Thank you, Ali. Okay. Any other children? Teens? There are a few teens here. Okay. You guys heard that? Right? Okay. So yeah, Sumaya is saying that we need to unlearn that that in terms of our age gap, sometimes the adult tend to behave in a superior manner to the to the child, right? Because we are more knowledgeable, we have more experience and things like that. Any other inputs by children? Listen to them. Some of us know what we want even though we are young. Right, rich. Okay. Let them learn in their own time. Give them space. Okay, so
Also, maybe some children that have actually more knowledge than adults.
hey, there you go. Do you have an example to share?
So apparently, I know more science than my mother.
Then why do you need adults?
Like, like protecting us until we grow older.
Nice.
But
Yeah,
apparently, that's not the case in some places.
that's right. Okay, thank you, Ali. Thank you, Ali. Give him a round of applause. He's very brave. He's very brave. Well done, well done. Okay. There's a question here. Okay, someone was wondering. Sorry, okay. So someone's is wondering whether children were consulted for this forum. Dawn, would you like to answer that? Right. Okay. To wrap up this thing about children's voices, I would like to ask Shiyun, right? Because the name of your program is actually very interesting. Takut Kids, right? And for the non-Malay speaking members of the audience, tak takut kids can have actually two connotation. Means I think Shiyun she mentioned tak takut meaning being fearful, being fearless. So kids who are fearless, right? But tak takut kids can also mean not being afraid of kids. So I don't know whether that was one of the intention. So
I think if you look at our logo, the English under Tatakut actually has off in the parentheses. Yeah.
right,
Mm.
right, yeah. So like I think this is second element that I think a lot of us grapple with. So maybe Shiyun can share about how sometimes because sometimes we're afraid of letting children's voices be heard, right? How do we let go of our apprehension of letting children take the lead?
Actually, this is related to the answer I have as a child to that question. Actually, I think the unlearn is just not don't stop at feedback. Yeah. And we are quite good at organizing feedback sessions, Like, okay, we have the children, okay, what you all think about this? And then we stop there. Participation shouldn't stop there. We should continue to co-create with the kids. But when you co-create solutions with the kids and actually wanting to implement it, it takes a lot of courage because it might fail. So don't be afraid to fail. And that's actually in playing. We often say that children need to play more. Actually, the adults need to play. And play means that it's possible something might go wrong. But as adults, we know what are the stakes. So sometimes okay, we can play because the stakes not so high. We can afford to lose this. Yeah. Sometimes you have to tell a child, actually, we cannot play because the stakes are high, and explain to them why. Yeah. So it's not always like, sometimes we have to consult our children. Sometimes we also need to let our children know they need to consult us. Yeah. So it's not entirely child-led. Yeah. So there's a lot of consideration that everybody kind of like need to be not afraid and just be open about possibilities and possibility of failures. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Okay, we are running out of time, but if you can just do the last question on a Slido, okay, because it's actually to also facilitate your discussion in the small groups after this. Okay, so my question to you is, after this panel discussion, which of the following should be prioritized? So which of the following should be prioritized first to fulfill children's rights in education in Singapore? Okay, so maybe this can be an input for the discussion leaders as you go into the next session. Sorry? So you're supposed to choose which one do you think should be prioritized.
Maybe just to clarify, when we talk about child-led in these circles, child-led means letting the child have a voice. It doesn't mean letting the child do whatever they want. Same thing as if you have women-led discussions, okay, or like elderly-led. That's the idea.
Okay, 23 votes. Is there more coming? Everyone done? So the top concern seems to be about emotional literacy and redesigning curriculum with children and community learning. Right? Okay, we just leave it here as we go into the next session. So I don't want to stand in between you and your lunch. So I hope that you have a good lunch and make use of the time during lunch to connect with one another and even speak to our panelists here. Okay, so in your breakout session later, speak bravely and speak up your mind, right? Don't worry. We're all here to learn from one another. Okay, and actually, even if you think that you come here to listen to the keynote speakers, to the panelists, all of you from now on, you are actually leaders in this space. Okay, so after you leave the session today and into the discussions later on, and even after today, this whole forum, okay, please tell and share about what you have learned to the others, okay, to advocate for children's rights in Singapore. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. Two admin things. Lanyards, we want it back at the end of the conference. So carrying around with you to identify each other, but at the end of it, please drop it off at the box when you leave. You all did really well. Lunchtime, it's a bit tight, but be back at 1, okay? And then maybe in your training rooms. Okay. All right. Come back by 12:50, 12:55, all right? Speakers, go to the speakers corner for lunch and feel free, everyone mingle. Thank you.